Hello there, my name's Dan Money, Clinic Manager and Health and Wellbeing Physiologist, working for Nuffield Health on behalf of Vodafone. Today I'm presenting to you a webinar on working from home, improve your resilience and work-life balance. Hopefully the session will provide some useful tips on how we can build our resilience to stress, what services are available to us, and top tips for improving your work-to-life balance whilst working remotely. The world of work as a whole is changing fast, with people often living and working longer, increasingly caring for their children and parents. Many of us have seen lots of changes to the way we work in recent months, with nearly all of our work being done remotely. There's growing pressure to do more with less, but with technology, which we're really fortunate with at Vodafone, it's keeping us switched on, enabling us to work wherever and whenever we choose. Our work should do more, however, than just contribute to economic growth and meet our financial needs. It should also improve the quality of our lives by giving us meaning and purpose and contribute positively to our overall well-being. So let's talk a little bit about resilience. It comes from the Latin word resilio, or to jump back or bounce back. And it's described as our ability to prepare for, react to and recover from challenges or adverse events. I'm now going to give a quick overview on resilience and managing stress. People talk a lot about the word stress, but what does it actually mean? Stress is something that's very personal to us, and we experience it in different ways. Stress is essentially when a situation, pressure or change exceeds our coping abilities. Take a roller coaster ride, for example. You might have two people on the same roller coaster together. One person may take a genuine enjoyment out of that experience. The other person might take a genuine sense of fear and anxiety. The roller coaster itself doesn't change, but our perceptions of it can differ. The same can be said of other stressful situations. Ultimately, it depends on your perception of that situation that determines whether you see it as a stressor. Of course, the roller coaster example is an example of a short-term stress in which isolation may not cause any harm whatsoever. It's only when stress accumulates beyond your coping abilities and without adequate recovery that stress can become a problem. Stress is likely to occur after an accumulation of life-changing events. Those events can be both positive and negative. It might include a business realignment, a promotion at work, or even something enjoyable such as a holiday or bank holiday weekend. What matters is that there's a change to your normal routine. When several changes to your life happen within a short space of time, that's when it can have an impact on your resilience and your stress. In this instance, it could be the changes involved in the switch from office working to remote working. We all know that stress can make us feel under pressure, agitated and sometimes overwhelmed. The question is, how does stress affect our body and our mind, and what can we do about it? Within the body, you have the central nervous system, which is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. Within the central nervous system, you have the autonomic nervous system, which is regulating things that are outside of your control. This includes things like your heart rate, blinking. Within the autonomic nervous system, you have two branches. One is the sympathetic system, otherwise known as the fight or flight system, and the other is the parasympathetic system, which is your rest and digest system. Although the systems react and interact, both have different roles. The sympathetic nervous system is responsible for increasing heart rate, increasing blood pressure, and increasing glucose release into the blood to help you perform when stress hits. The parasympathetic system is responsible for suppressing heart rate, slowing you back down, and bringing you back to what's known as homeostasis. Stress can also have an effect on the way your brain functions. Normally, when you experience a situation or stimulus, it goes into the thalamus in your brain and then into the cerebral cortex, the outer part of the brain, which is responsible for higher level thinking, such as strategy, executive decision making, creativity. The problem is that when you're under stress, the whole system gets bypassed and it goes straight to your amygdala. The amygdala is very closely linked to your fight or flight response. It's that kind of effect you get when you react instantly without even thinking about it. Therefore, when you're under stress, the amygdala will result in your fight or flight response engaging super rapidly. You don't have the outer human thinking that you would normally have, and as a result, you may react in a more negative way. Now we know a bit more about stress, the question is, what can we do to improve our resilience and our ability to deal with pressure? When it comes to effective stress management, it's important to focus on the factors that are within your perceived control. Strategy 1, noticing. This is where you keep a mental note of situations, or keep a journal if you wish to, when you're unnecessarily activating your stress response. You would note what it feels like physically, the feelings or emotions you have and how you handle them. This helps you notice patterns and habits. Once you've completed this over a number of days, you can reflect on how you might have handled these situations differently, and what might have changed to be able to handle the situation more effectively, emotionally and physically. What you can do as an engagement task is to think of yourself in example situations and how they may agitate you, increase pressure that you feel, and or put you out of your comfort zone, whether that's positively or negatively. Then for both the positive and negative reaction answers, think about how this affects your own mood and emotions, your concentration, productivity, thought processes, and how your reactions may affect your colleagues. So the aim with the noticing strategy is to reconsider and reframe the situation using logic and rational thinking skills, which again is that front part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, instead of emotional reasoning, replacing your irrational self-talk with rational self-talk that reflects the actual situation. Remember, on the basis of what has become familiar to the amygdala, the hippocampus and frontal cortex in our brain mediates decisions as to what constitutes appropriate behaviour in any given situation. Thus, subconscious emotional memories and associated physiological patterns affect our emotional reactions, thought processes and behaviour, and therefore we may need to retrain our brain to see those differently. You can't always stop the brain hijack, but you can calm it, reset it and reduce the impact. When you find yourself reacting stressfully, try these strategies to calm the hijack down. Another strategy that we often talk about within the context of health assessments and increasing focus on relaxation and resilience to stress is mindfulness, and that has a lot of similarities to a slightly less mentally focused but more physically focused technique called heart focused breathing. This is where we try to breathe in a way that stimulates what we call a coherent heart rhythm or coherent heart rate variability pattern, which is where the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches in the autonomic nervous system I mentioned earlier are equally balanced and working in a way that allows us to switch into reactive mode and also switch on relaxation, makes us more adaptable to stresses and pressure. So with the heart focused breathing, what we look to do is create a deep breathing pattern to slow down the heart rate, and it forms a wave-like pattern, as you can see on the slide here, the blue wave pattern, as opposed to the much more erratic heart rate variability pattern on the red graph, which is where the nervous system is much less balanced and puts us in a poorer place to respond to and recover from stresses and pressures. Now, what you do effectively is breathe in deeply for 5 seconds, really trying to focus your activation of your diaphragm, so almost allowing your stomach to expand as you breathe in. You can achieve that by sort of lacing your fingers together and putting your hands over your tummy, breathing in deeply for 5 seconds, and as you breathe in, focusing your attention on the area of the heart, and they've shown that this can help to, if practice regularly and for at least five deep breaths in and out, help to bring that nervous system back into balance. They've also found that if you, at the same time as performing the deep breathing, try to think of a positive emotion and focus your attention on the area of your heart, that also seems to have a positive impact, which further demonstrates the link between our emotional state and our physiological responses and how they're inexorably intertwined. Another strategy you can look at is trying to turn threats into challenges. Think about ways you can choose to see a threat as a resource instead of a threat. Remind yourself that even though it might make you feel uncomfortable and produce anxiety, you can welcome stress as something that's there to give you more energy and drive and increase your focus on something that's important to you. The pounding heart rate and pulse, well, that's your body working hard to give you the energy you need to succeed. And when you feel your body reacting to stress, try letting go. Trying to make those symptoms go away, sorry, is not always very useful. Instead, maybe reframe that and tell yourself that the butterflies are a good sign that your body is getting ready for you to be able to focus and be in the right frame of mind to tackle the stress or pressure you're looking at. So taking a deep breath is still useful in this situation, not so much to calm down, but to refocus you on your task ahead. If you can view a situation as a challenge as opposed to a threat, you can create more beneficial pathways in the brain and change the body's physiological response to a situation. For example, before a stressful event, like delivering a presentation, tell yourself, I am excited, as opposed to I am anxious. Stand up tall, change your posture. That can have a powerful effect on your brain chemistry too. Another really important strategy for improving resilience is to pay attention to the positive things that are going on in your life. An exercise that has shown some significant evidence in helping to improve people's positivity and thus positively influence their emotional state and resilience emotionally and physically is the 3 good things exercise, which I'm sure many of you will have heard of. This is where you write down 3 good things that you're grateful for on a daily basis, and completing this over a week has been shown to reduce symptoms of depression and increase feelings of happiness. And some studies showed that even when this was completed for a relatively short period of time, such as a few weeks, the effects were quite long lasting, maybe even as much as 6 months for some individuals. The idea is that positive emotions such as joy, compassion and gratitude can benefit our physical and mental health. And having a positive outlook doesn't mean never experiencing negative emotions. It's more about finding the right balance. OK, next we're going to look at some kind of resilience tips on how you can make some changes to your working day and patterns, which may just help you to increase your mood, energy and concentration and overall resilience. So first of all, looking at taking regular short breaks. Today's professional challenges demand a lot of abstract thinking and people skills, as well as the ability to deal with the overwhelming information and constant connectivity that all come through the internet. At any given time, you're balancing a number of mental tasks. All this can add up to an overloaded brain that feels tired, finds it hard to focus, lethargic, and can become reactive. Remember that amygdala hijack we talked about earlier, and the instant reaction to negative emotions and something like maybe like a bad email coming through or something like that. So you think you can be, making more progress by constantly multitasking, working endless hours. However, constantly switching gears takes up extra brain power, uses energy and increases the time needed to complete tasks, and it can in some cases lead to mental exhaustion more quickly than focusing on one task at a time. We can't necessarily decrease the amount of information we receive, for example the number of emails we receive depending on our role, but what can we do on a daily level to help improve the situation? So some things you could look at would be to compartmentalize cognitive tasks to optimize the way we process information, compartmentalizing different types of work activities such as emailing, strategy or brainstorming sessions, and usual meetings that you might do. Creating dedicated times in the day to do specific work activities, such as the way you might create dedicated time for physical exercise in the course of your day, such as your lunch break. In the early evening before your dinner time. Think about what tasks require more mental energy and what times of day you have peak energy and also energy dips. Now that'll vary per person. Some people I think know that they tend to have higher energy levels at certain times of the day, and it's definitely a good idea to maybe think about doing those tasks that require more energy, or perhaps that you find harder to motivate yourself to do when you know that your own energy levels are likely to be better and your mind is more likely to be fresh. For some people, it's just not very practical to check their emails at a certain time each day or avoid being disrupted. And if that's the case for you, you may like to look at creating focus zones instead. These are zones of focused effort in your day to tackle tasks that require maximum accuracy and creativity. So that could mean, as opposed to sitting in a quiet corner in your usual office now at home, instead creating a quiet zone by asking for no disruptions. You may be going to shut your door to the room you're working in, and make sure that you can focus by removing external distractions like your personal mobile phone that may be popping up with notifications, etc. So yeah, I mean, also you may, even though we're working remotely, if it's again allowable within your role to say that you're turning off your communication to your colleagues, or shutting down your emails for a short period of time, or your Skype or whatever it might be, to enable you to really focus in. And it's important to return this courtesy as well. So if you know one of your colleagues is deeply immersed in a task, then try not to interrupt them for something that you could ask them a bit later on without any consequence. Studies have shown most productive people do tend to take frequent breaks throughout the day, and you may be good at taking your breaks most of the time, but on that day when a deadline is looming and think I don't have time for a break, that might actually be the time when you need a break the most. Mental focus, clarity, energy cycles, typically 90 to 120 minutes long, it's been shown. So it's useful to step away from your work at least after that sort of time frame, even if just for a couple of minutes, to switch your mind away from what you're doing and refocus. So yeah, the ultimate aim, of course, of all this kind of strategy is to promote greater energy, mental clarity and focus, which should make you more productive throughout the day as a whole. If I could use an old analogy, you could think of a man walking in the woods who comes across a lumberjack struggling to saw down a tree. After watching for a moment, it becomes apparent his saw is completely blunt. The man asks the lumberjack, "Why not take a moment to sharpen your saw, and you'll have that tree down in no time?" The lumberjack exhaustedly replies that he does not have the time to spare to sharpen his saw, as he has 10 more trees to fell after this one, so must keep going. Well, stop and think. If the lumberjack did take a few minutes to sharpen his tools, then he'd likely return to the task refreshed and in a better place to succeed than before. So no matter how high your workload, it's always beneficial to give yourself a short time out to refocus, resharpen your own tools, i.e. your brain. Another thing that can be really useful to think about when in the home office is trying to a degree replicate some of your normal working sort of attire or ways of working that you would have tended to do when in the office. So for example, obviously part of your normal routine would be getting changed from your pajamas into work appropriate attire. And although it may be tempting to work in your pajamas at home, it may not be the best option for productivity because you associate being in your pajamas with relaxation. Of course, you don't have to wear a suit or heels, but ideally probably somewhere in the middle at least. So dressing in clothes that you would normally wear outside of the home is likely to get you more in the mindset for work. And the other thing that's worth mentioning is not to get into the patterns of overworking at home. I think a lot of people now obviously have less travelling time perhaps, and there's extra opportunities to be on the emails, even perhaps from the first moment after we wake up. And it's really better to avoid getting sucked in at 7 or 6 a.m. in the morning, which could mean that you then end up doing a 10 to 12 hour day by 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you do that all week long, it's likely to be feeling pretty exhausting by the end of the week, and then with little energy to devote to your own personal time and relaxation at the weekend. So before you grab your laptop, go through your morning routine, take the time to get ready, grab a cup of coffee, and even if you can, do a bit of morning exercise. And then when you sit down, give yourself 15 minutes, maybe even before showing yourself as online or on Skype or Teams, whatever it might be, so that you can get your stuff together and then you're ready to go when business day starts. Other options that are useful to think about is creating obviously a dedicated workspace where you see that as your office at home. And yeah, it's likely to mean that when you then finish the working day, you're able to dissociate, or you're able to feel more like you're leaving work when you go back to the other parts of your house. Whereas if you're working in your living room or kitchen, you may still end up feeling like you're still at work and you're less able to relax and switch off. Yeah, so another small one would be looking at working hours. Well, not small one, quite important really, I suppose, in terms of obviously now, a lot of us are in roles where we can have the flexibility to move working hours around a bit if it's helpful, and again in relation to when you've tend to have better energy levels, and a pattern that allows you to get what you need done, but allow yourself also more time for breaks and that sort of thing. It can otherwise be all too easy to allow work time to bleed into your home lifetime. So another strategy I alluded to earlier that can obviously be really helpful for increasing relaxation and resilience to stress and pressure is mindfulness meditation. You can find out more about mindfulness and explore some mindfulness techniques via the Silver Cloud app, which is available for all Vodafone employees. It's a Nuffield Health app that is, it's website based, and you should find the link to that on the workplace wellbeing page. So mindfulness is a maintaining of moment by moment awareness of our thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations and surrounding environment through a nurturing eye. Mindfulness encourages acceptance, meaning that we acknowledge our thoughts and feelings without judging if they're right or wrong, for example. When practicing mindfulness, our thoughts tune in to what we're sensing in the present moment rather than dwelling on earlier experiences such as events and situations upcoming in the future. So mindfulness has been shown to improve physical health in terms of reducing blood pressure, relieving stress, improving sleep, gut health, reducing muscular tension and pain. It can improve cognitive or brain function related health, including memory, brain awareness, and again can help to reduce that kind of emotional reactivity in stressful situations that we alluded to earlier. The two scans you can see on the slide there are looking at the same person at baseline and while practicing mindfulness, and the increased red areas on the right hand side are showing a high level of brain activity when performing mindfulness. So yeah, definitely a useful tool that you can have a look at there. Many other apps out there as well, such as Headspace, that are worth looking at. But do check out the guide on Silver Cloud around mindfulness and try and fit it into your day. Perhaps try and even fitting a short session, 10-15 minutes into the middle of your working day, or at the end of the day when you're trying to wind down and relax, can be really handy way to either set yourself up for the day or relax to help you switch off and end the day. So just some recap here on things that you can do to help your colleagues at work. So we obviously think about fostering a positive work environment, listening to, respecting, appreciating and supporting work colleagues, obviously in a virtual sense at the moment. It's good if you can facilitate having catch-ups which aren't overly work focused, such as virtual lunch breaks, virtual coffee breaks with your colleagues, and finding the balance between that and also having your own personal relaxation time. Perhaps still possible to plan some events and team building activities. I spoke to someone on an online health assessment the other day who was they had gotten into walking, and they were doing walks in the evening with their work colleagues on a Microsoft Teams call, so they could have some kind of sociable chat and sort of say to each other how they were feeling about the walking as they were going, where they were and what they were up to. So that was a really cool idea, I thought. Showing gratitude, providing praise, recognising someone who's done a good job, and then again the 3 good things we alluded to earlier, something that you can do. I try to do that with my family, my children especially. when I sit down with them at dinner time to come up with some, reflection on the day and something good that's happened, it tends to help put them in a slightly more positive frame of mind quite often. So the next parts of the webinar are a little more focused on kind of factors around nutrition and exercise and how that can influence resilience to stress. And particularly when we're thinking about nutrition, when we're stressed, it can modify the way we feel about food and influence our choices in food we're likely to go for. And when you're working from home, it may be easier to get into some bad habits of unhealthy snacking or not to make time for preparing nutritious meals. These choices can then lead into a diminishing effect on physical and mental recovery and resilience to stress and pressure. And something we really advocate in Nuffield Health and talk about often within health assessments is a Mediterranean approach to diet or nutrition. Try and stick away from the word diet because that often implies weight control, but we're really thinking here about a style of diet that's not only linked to massive benefits for heart health in terms of blood pressure and cholesterol, but they've also shown that due to its anti-inflammatory approach on the body, this can have lots of other really important health benefits. The emphasis of a Mediterranean diet, you can see on the slide there, is looking at reduced amounts of processed foods, lower saturated fat intakes from cakes, biscuits, chocolates, processed meats, etc. More healthy fats from oily fish, avocados, nuts. And it's not just about the food, it's also about a style of living in terms of more active lifestyle, more outdoors lifestyle, trying to have that overall kind of reduced impact on our health by looking at a wider kind of more holistic approach to diet and lifestyle. So studies have shown also that brain scans of individuals who consumed a Mediterranean style diet, that there was reduced deposits of certain proteins that have been linked to mental illnesses like Alzheimer's disease and an increased energy use or metabolic activity compared with a Western diet, which is high in processed food, meat, red meats and sugars. Individuals with a high adherence to Mediterranean style diet of eating, a Mediterranean style of eating, have shown a reduced risk of scoring low on cognitive tests. Studies have shown as high as 35% risk reduction in older adults, and furthermore, even adults who adhered only moderately to a Mediterranean style diet showed a 15% risk reduction. And the short-term effects are important. You can apparently obtain good benefits to mood and cardiovascular function from even just 10 days of switching to a Mediterranean style diet. You can find out more about Mediterranean style diet through having a health assessment with me and talking about it, but also if you put into Google NHS Mediterranean diet, that will have a good overview of the benefits there. Another important factor around diet is blood glucose control. So whilst you may be good at generally eating a healthy diet, when you're working remotely, maybe big deadlines looming, people can end up making choices like skipping lunch, grabbing high energy snacks, and this can have that blood sugar roller coaster effect that you've probably all seen this graph on the slide at some point, where blood sugar levels rise rapidly due to fast release carbohydrates going in, such as white flour, white bread, white rice, sugary treats, cereals, juices, etc. This then can result in an overcompensation in the body with a large release of insulin, which then causes a sharper drop in blood glucose levels. Not necessarily to below normal levels, the body is quite capable of regulating things generally in a healthy person, but these changes can influence an increased desire to go for more sugary snacks to bring energy levels back up again, and also it's thought possibly that the larger releases of insulin that are incurred can have a bit of an effect on weight control, fat storage, that sort of thing too. So whilst glucose is the main source of fuel for the brain, we want to receive this in a nice steady way, like the sort of greeny coloured line there on the chart, as opposed to big peaks and troughs. the roller coaster type effect, and that can, give you, those sort of short spikes of energy, can give you mental energy for a short period of time, but you can find your energy levels then becoming depleted more quickly, and your sort of mental and physical staying power throughout the day likely to be affected. Staying hydrated is also very important. On a stressful day, you may forget to have water altogether, and that's when you need it the most. Dehydration can impair your brain function and make your brain feel foggy. So keeping a water bottle at your desk and maybe setting a reminder to sip from that fairly regularly is a good idea. And in terms of overall sugar intake, remember, it's actually recommended to have no more than 30 grams of sugar per day. Typically, many adults consume over 100 grams of sugar a day. So it's really good to think about avoiding those overtly sugary snacks, particularly the ones that are just really high in sugars on their own and don't have a lot of anything much else in there to buffer the sugars, anything much whole grain or slower releasing energy. Oh, so keeping active. Benefits of keeping active. Obviously, probably these are fairly apparent. So even taking a 10-minute brisk walk can increase the blood flow to your brain, increase your mental sharpness, lift your mood, increase your fitness. The brain needs time to shut down and reset. So take your well, shut down, I don't like to use that term, sorry, that's in the notes here. Your brain doesn't shut down, but you need time to reset and recover. Taking your break, switching off from work, helping yourself to a good quality sleep. Low to moderate exercise can perhaps be most useful for stress management. Exercises that place a focus on muscle tension, deep breathing are really good because they drive up activation of that parasympathetic nervous system, and they often require focusing on a technique that helps to take your mind off other things. Really high intensity exercise, such as maybe going for a very fast run or high intensity class just before bedtime, it's possibly not ideal because that in the short run does tend to switch on the stress responses in the body quite a lot. And although in the long run the benefits of being fit and doing that type of exercise are really good, perhaps the timing isn't ideal because those stress hormones are still likely to be circulating when you are trying to get off to sleep and likely to make it harder for you to do so. And although the gyms are hopefully opening again now, or may be open by the time you listen into this, if you still prefer to exercise at home, there's some excellent low and high intensity workouts available on Nuffield Health 24/7, which is a new web-based platform Nuffield are offering. I believe soon there will be apps for it as well, and it's currently free for all Vodafone employees. You can just put Nuffield Health 24/7 into Google and you'll find the homepage there. Yeah, obviously motivation is a big factor at the moment for people making new lifestyle habits, and appreciate that this time of year that can be more difficult with the colder, darker days and many people being a bit affected by the seasonal effect, as we discussed on the last webinar around winter wellbeing. Motivation is a combination of external factors like the desire to lose weight and intrinsic motivators such as satisfaction and accomplishment. And having a combination of those can really help to increase your chances of sticking to a new lifestyle change or new exercise regime. So try to have a really clear picture of your desired outcome for the lifestyle change you're making, whether that's health, family, weight goal, or improved focus. If you find an activity you really enjoy doing exercise-wise, you're far more likely to stick at it than something you don't really enjoy. Try and plan your activity. So if you're thinking of doing some running, try to make sure that you schedule time into that the next day so that you can make it happen. Maybe again increasing your accountability by meeting up with a friend to do that, if that's currently permissible, would be really good. And trying to also maybe again reflect on your exercise sessions and identify the positive feelings you get from exercising that will help to motivate you to keep up a regular routine. It's also a good thing to consider that if you're getting back into exercising for the first time in a little while, that it's good to start off gradually, trying to go back to a previous fitness level that you've not been at for quite a long time may result in frustration and injury, and maybe even you're likely to get that muscle soreness that can put people off continuing. So just building up gradually, and a really excellent way to do that for something like running is with the NHS Couch to 5K programme, which provides a structured way to do that through a series of podcasts over 9 weeks, with the aim being to build up to running 5 kilometres. Even just doing what you can is better than nothing. Even if you intended to go out for a run, but on a day you don't feel the motivation is there for whatever reason, getting out for a walk at least would be something, and it'd be a good way still that will no doubt have a good boost to your mood, energy and productivity. How you can help your colleagues with fitness related stuff. So, you know, set those team challenges that we're all familiar with around step counts. Try to set up virtual exercise classes or activities. Again, the walking on a call might be quite a cool thing to look at. And there's those apps such as the NHS Active 10, which is another NHS app around 10 minutes of brisk activity each day. That will be censored by the accelerometer in your phone, and it'll tell you whether you've done it or not. And then you've got the Nuffield 24/7 for those more sort of tailored workouts around, you know, ranging from yoga to HIIT training to resistance training if you do have some weights at home. Obviously, I constantly talk to people in my health assessments about standing whilst they're working, walking and talking on the meetings if they can. Maybe even standing desks are a good idea, for certainly from a posture perspective, to break things up a bit and take the strain off your back. And yeah, keeping your colleagues in the loop on what you found useful and effective for you, sharing ideas. So the take-home points from today that I would summarise with would be around taking a look at some of those strategies that can help to improve resilience, increase relaxation time, like being mindful, heart-focused breathing and mindfulness itself, reframing threats and turning them into a challenge and taking a more positive spin on them, looking at a Mediterranean style of diet, focusing on some healthy food swaps there, and balancing your sugar levels to avoid the roller coaster. Getting enough good quality sleep is obviously a really important thing. We haven't gone into a lot of detail here, and again, that's far more likely if you're sleeping good duration and quality of sleep. You're far less likely to be in a state where you're going to be reactive to stress and pressure. You're going to be much more likely able to have a decent balance to your nervous system and control regulation of stress hormones like cortisol. Sitting less and moving more, clearly beneficial for refocusing, weight control and all sorts of things. Walking and talking meetings, and leading by example, and hopefully your colleagues will follow and can, you know, really just help to push the culture of you know, positive lifestyle improvements with your friends and colleagues. Lastly, I'd just like to reiterate the availability of some really excellent wellbeing services that are available to you as a Vodafone employee. I've already mentioned Silver Cloud on the call, which is the web-based platform that has lots of useful self-help guides on resilience to stress and pressure, reducing anxiety, mindfulness, and that's available through your workplace wellbeing page, and I believe also through the My Choices platform you can access that. The online health assessments is what I'm mainly involved in. I conduct those at the moment. Choices of eight different modules to explore different elements of your health and well-being, ranging from heart health, diabetes risk prevention, posture, lots of different options in there, in a virtual setting. You can find out about the enrolment processes again through the Choices platform there. You've got the Employee Assistance Programme, or EAP programme, which is offered by Workplace Options, and that's got a huge amount of different topics in there that can help to support your mental health and well-being, and support you in other ways as well. You've got the virtual GP services if you've got any medical concerns at the moment, through Medical Solutions there, and also the growing number of mental health first aiders who are trained within Vodafone that you can reach out to for personal help as well. And you can find out more about all of these initiatives via the UK Wellbeing Community on Workplace. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me on the webinar today, and I hope you found some useful hints and tips from that, and I hope you'll tune into another one of these in the future. I look forward to speaking to you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.